Hi, and welcome to another of our 10-minute coffee breaks. I'm Jim Franklin, and this is my partner.
Hey y'all, hey, comedian Allison Moore.
And we're going to talk today about a very important topic with a trigger word. Segregation is counterproductive, and we're really looking forward to this because it's a tough one. So Allison, I want to talk about something today that's a trigger word for both of us. Me from where I grew up, and you kind of just because you had to live with the threat of it for a while. But you know, the title of this segment doesn't do justice to it a little bit. Segregation is counterproductive. And really, I think when I kind of wrote the idea down and you and I started kicking it around, I was thinking about self-segregation, how we all naturally tend to gravitate to our own groups and that kind of thing, and how counterproductive that is in the modern world, particularly in the corporate world. So if I had to ask you a question that would help us get started, you and I, to have this discussion, it would be, to you, where have you seen self-segregation and what did it look like? What have you encountered?
I've seen it everywhere, but specifically, let's say at work, I would see it would look like where people would self-segregate based on their economic abilities, right? So when I was working in leadership, I worked in human resources, well, everybody would golf.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know what, or so the golfers would be over.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked in it was a Japanese company. So a lot of the management, they were Japanese. And so they would, the Japanese, they would be there. Well, it was only about 2 or 3 blacks in leadership. So we were kind of forced to either insert ourselves into these spaces where we wouldn't be left out, or we were left. And it wasn't until you and I started to talk about it where I had to take ownership of, I still then was kind of self-segregated, right? At first when you're like, people self-segregate, I'm like, no, people get left out. That's what happens. But, after 1 or 2 times that I might have been left out, I didn't try to continue to get put in. What's the opposite of left out?
Opposite, included.
Included, there you go. That's why we make a team.
Yeah.
So for me, I would see that happening a lot, and it just left us not being able to kind of,
we've talked a lot about allies.
Yeah.
And it's counterproductive in the sense that if you are trying to form allyships or relationships with other people, this self-segregation tendency kind of gets in the way.
Yeah.
So my thought always about it is that even though it's a natural tendency, we have to work at overcoming it.
Yeah.
And how do we do that? Well, one of the things that I've always found, as I've gotten older, it's become easier for me to do. But one of the things that that you have to do is try to get to know people that are different.
Yeah.
That's easy to say, hard to do. But I've seen self-segregation occur in the classrooms where you and I are. Mm-hmm. We're giving workshops, and we walk in and let everybody seat themselves, and we're all doing that, around a big horseshoe table. Mm-hmm. And this just happened last Friday. And we look out, and all the black people are on one side, and all the white people are on the other side, which in and of itself doesn't right away seem bad. Mm-hmm. However, your and my job during all of those is how are we going to bring them together? How are we going to get them to start talking to each other? And as soon as we break that ice and people start talking to each other, then it's like the whole room livens up. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's the counterproductive part of segregation. So the trigger word part of segregation is that it has this Old South ring to it. But what I mean by it is that we self-segregate because we isolate ourselves into a group.
Yeah.
Nobody's isolating us. Mm-hmm. We're doing it ourselves. Mm-hmm. And my idea is that to overcome that, we have to think of it as inclusion. So you forced that word out of me earlier.
Yeah.
But the idea is that instead of excluding people by segregating ourselves, we include people by trying to reach in there and get them with us.
Mm-hmm. I think that there's some, that covers maybe half of our viewers, right? But then there's some more to be said, or some more left on the table for those people who have tried, and it has never worked out to their good. It's always been harmful or hurtful. And I'm always like, one of the things with you, like I feel like I have to insert myself or else I'm just going to miss out. But with you, and we've had this conversation, you've helped me to see past my assumptions that it's just easy for you as a white man to walk into a room with, majority blacks or majority Asian or majority whatever, because I used to falsely assume you don't have any fear, you're not uncomfortable, this is your world, so it doesn't matter. And you've helped me to see that it's not necessarily that it's easy for you either.
You said something not too long ago. You said, well, you've got credibility now, and my credibility with the minority community comes from the business work that I'm doing and the things that I'm trying to reach out and encourage entrepreneurship and early stage business of minority ownership, that kind of thing. But what I said back to you, I think surprised you. I said, no, I have zero credibility in every new group that I walk into. And that's what makes including yourself into a group or walking into a group that is different than you hard.
Yeah.
Because you still have to build that trust. But if you back up to it, that's what allyship is.
Yeah.
The allies allow you to do that because they have a little bit of open heart for you.
Right.
That goes there. So if we go back to, something we talked about in the last coffee break, about how to have allyship as a partnership, you and I have it, I think. I feel like
Definitely.
You and I are good partners in almost
you talking about the
everything we do.
You said, I think.
No. I'm saying that I don't know whether other people perceive it at the depth that we do.
Oh, yeah.
But I do know that I get a lot of questions about, well, what did it take? And then the reality was, well, she came to me and I came to her. Yeah. And when it was all over, we had mutual interests of trying to do it. So I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, well, I think that I didn't go into it thinking that I was creating an allyship, right? I just went into it as normal. I need to get what I need to get. At that time, you were the presenter. You were really nice. You were really clear. I felt like there was a lot of things that you were saying that maybe some other people didn't kind of understand.
Right.
So that's a part of my personality, like, let me help translate. But you just made me feel like there was such a wealth of information that we could all benefit from, and you were here, let's get it. Then over time, it just continued to be safe. It continued to be these experiences that were different from other experiences that I've had working with white men. And so that's why I was like, oh, shoot. And then you would do things that I'm like, did you mean to be this nice? Did you mean to help me out?
Well, there's a thing when we get back to what we're trying to get out of this, which is identifying segregation that is self-segregation, or separation is probably a better word, actually. I think that when I walk into a room, I don't look at the majority of people. I don't look at the people who are fine, who are doing good, who are getting what you and I are talking about. I look at the fringes, I look at the edges, I look at who has been pushed to the edge and try to bring them in. So in a workplace, to me, I want to reach out and touch those people in a way that brings them into the group. So a call to action that I would say for us today is, number one, step one, notice when self-segregation is occurring and don't accept it. But don't just criticize it. Find a way yourself to reach into that self-segregated group and start including yourself, which will include them in this group.
Yeah. One of the things that I did that really helpful in this, because there's a level of being uncomfortable, right? And so over the weekend, myself and my children, we went to a neighborhood that was like really nearby my house, but it was a Latino community. And we went and we ate at their restaurant, went to their convenience store. It was a Friday, so they were like cashing their checks and everything. And I was totally out of my comfort zone. I was not the popular.
How did your kids do?
I mean, they
loved it, right?
They loved it.
Yeah,
they loved it. They were like, well, we ain't been here. This is great food, Mom.
If there would be no segregation and very little discrimination if you left it up to the 10-year-olds.
Yeah, and what happened though was all my fears and my discomfort was so minimized. And I really had to sit with how.
Well, there it is.
Yep.
That's it, the discomfort.
Yeah.
So, another session?
Yeah,
We're
definitely
good?
another session. Yeah,
Good call to action.
This is good.
Find it.
Yeah.
And don't criticize it, fix it.
Put yourself in a space that makes you a little uncomfortable to learn someone else's world. So when you see the little group that looks a little different than you, you've already made yourself uncomfortable. You can do this one.
There you go.
Is that good?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, that's it.